I recently picked up these PS2 2893 covered hoppers from Trainworld. Now, these are Athearn Genesis cars. These cars have a list price of $54.99. I got the Southern Pacific cars for $29.99 and the Cotton Belt cars for $24.99. So I feel like that was a pretty good deal. These 2893 covered hoppers were first built in the mid-1950s, and they were used throughout North America up into the 1990s. Now, these cars would carry everything from grain to plastic pellets to salt, potash, aggregates, other mineral products, and even cement, although these cars, I think, had a 70-ton limit. And so they had a terrific utilitarian purpose and function, and a long service life. I got these images from railfan.net, and I have a great deal of appreciation for the guys that had the foresight to get out and photograph these cars. These cars have been gone for a long time. Their service life would have expired in the mid-1990s, and so these cars have been gone from the rails for almost 3 decades. So, again, I have a great deal of appreciation for the guys that went out there and took photos of these cars. I believe these cars would have been classified as H70-12s, where H for hopper, 70 for 70-ton trucks, and 12 for 12 panels. In the early 1960s, railroads started replacing the 40-foot boxcar for hauling grain with covered hoppers. I generally think of a covered hopper used for hauling grain as having large rectangular hatches on the roof. But I don't know if these 2893 covered hoppers ever had anything but the round hatches. When I take a critical look at these cars, I try to keep in mind the price point. As I mentioned, I paid $29.99 for the Southern Pacific cars and $24.99 for the Cotton Belt cars, which are excellent prices. But the level of detail on these cars is not going to match a tangent covered hopper. The features aren't as delicate as you're going to get on a super premium model. The walkways on the roof look pretty nice. The grabs in the corners look good. The hatches lack a little bit of definition. I think with a little bit of weathering and a pin wash on the hatches, the definition could pop a little bit more. The PS2 2893 covered hopper may be an older model in the Genesis line where the delicacy of the features and the definition of the molding isn't quite as good as it could be. The printing is pretty nice on the model. The stenciling is legible under magnification, and the edges of the graphics are real sharp. So I think that's pretty well done. And here on the other end of the car, the stenciling and the graphics look really good. I'm not an expert on trucks by any means, but I believe these are Bettendorf 70-ton trucks. The bars on the A end of the car shown here are pretty delicate, and you compare the size of these with the rungs on the ladder, and the ladders just could have been better. As I mentioned earlier, the graphics on the car are really well done. And here you can see with the Southern Pacific, the lettering is real sharp. There's no bleeding on the edges, so it's pretty well done. On the bottom, the chute detail's okay. It's kind of like the hatches on the top where there could be more definition. And you see the bell crank and the rods for the brakes. The bottom of the car looks good. You just have to keep in mind the price point for the cars. If you're going to pay full list price of $54.99, well, maybe it's not such a good deal. But getting them on sale for $29.99 for the SP cars, $24.99 for the cotton belt cars, well, it just puts the car in an entirely different light. We'll take a quick look at the cotton belt car. It's identical to the Southern Pacific car other than the graphics. Being these cars were built in the mid-50s, they still carry the old cotton belt logo. Here's a photo of a 2893 covered hopper, still in its original paint. You can see the classic cotton belt logo, and the photo is late enough where it has an ACI label. And the A end of the car has the cotton belt St. Louis Southwestern callouts. And the graphics are all nicely done. We've taken a close look at the Athearn Genesis PS-2 2893 covered hoppers for Southern Pacific and Cotton Belt. I think it's time to get them out on the layout and take them for a test drive. The Athearn Genesis PS-2 2893 covered hopper. Now these cars have the features that you would expect in a premium model. They have uncoupling levers, air hoses, undercarriage detail. But these cars are not tangent cars. I think if you can find these cars on sale, like I found mine, I think they're a good buy. They run well. The graphics are good on them. But the detail level and the definition isn't up there with the best cars. So I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you come back and join me again.